Maureen, can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Medina?
Here.
Mr. Cranes?
Here.
Mrs. Rayon?
Here.
Mrs. Het?
Here.
Mrs. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Benbow?
Here.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is presentation on Backpacks for Kids program by school counselor Barb Bondioli.
She was here a moment ago, and I
She was
don't
here a
know where she
moment
went to.
She just ran to the restroom.
Okay, well then, we'll just,
She's really nuts.
we can move on to the minutes and come back to that, I guess, can we? Okay.
Okay, then I will make a motion to approve the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of June 10th and the special Board of Education meeting minutes of June 24th.
Second.
A motion second to approve the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of June 10th and the special Board of Education meeting minutes of June 24th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Do we have any comments, Maureen, from
None.
citizens? Okay.
There she is.
Right.
That time. Barb, whenever you're ready.
Oh, my land's right on Valley.
I'm like jumping right in.
You guys take care of it for you, but.
So I stand here?
Wherever you
Okay,
like,
This is
sure.
best. It lists you as a school counselor, but social worker would be the.
I'm a school personnel staff member. We'll go with that. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Barb Bondioli. I'm a school social worker currently at Grove. I've been in the district 17 years, 11 at Howe, and the last 6 at Grove. So it's been just a huge pleasure. And it's really nice to be able to speak at the board meeting tonight. So thank you for having me. The past 17 years, just being in the district for that long, have provided me a unique perspective on poverty in this area. When I first came to Wisconsin Rapids, there was always pockets of need, which that was kind of my bread and butter. I would serve those families in whatever way I had to. And over the last, 5 or 6 years, I've seen a real change in that need. Families that I used to work with would have trouble getting through the month. They would have their, benefits or their part-time job or whatever they would have to provide for their children through the month. Most families were able to self-sustain pretty well. But lately, last recent years, we've seen families that have been pretty, well employed. Their hours have been cut, their benefits have been cut, they're going from full-time to part-time employment, they've been laid off, they can't find work. Hardworking families that really want to do for their children. Also, the families that have really had struggles before now are struggling on a weekly, even daily basis. And I've seen that firsthand with different situations. I know one little girl I had worked with, and she was going home sick for the day, and she said, well, what about lunch? And I said, well, don't worry, I signed you up, I signed you up for lunch, but we can take you off lunch. I thought she was worried about her lunch account, and she said, no, how will I eat lunch? That was her meal for the day. She really had no other way to get the meal. And so I see it, right in front of my eyes, the need is right there. So several years ago, I had the unique opportunity to work with a great student intern, and she and I, as we noticed the need develop over time, had the idea to start a backpack program for meals that would go from, on a Friday, the backpack full of food would go home on the weekend to the family. The family would eat and cook the meal, send the backpack home after the weekend was over, and the backpack would be refilled again for the next week. I brought some brochures on the program. They are only photocopies because we're in the process of working with a donor, another partner, who's creating some better materials for us. So bear with me on the photocopy brochures here. You can take one and pass it. But just in general, the backpack program, it's, like I said, it's essentially a backpack of food. I brought one. Happens to be my daughter's backpack, so it's not an official Rapids Family backpack pack. But it has, and the whole point of it is to look like a real backpack so the families don't feel awkward or singled out. It's not like a big logo on the front of it or whatever, but it's just a regular looking backpack. The family could be just carrying it home from school, or more often than not, the students carrying it home, and then they don't feel embarrassed. In fact, several times the students asked to have this be their backpack because theirs wasn't even as good as the ones we were having them bring the food home in, which is really, that's telling too. So we're dealing with some real poverty here. But in the backpack is, the first thing you'll see is a menu that comes out, and it lists the items that the families will get. The other partner, the main person that we were working with to create the program, who was really a co-facilitator of the program, is Jody Friday. She's the health educator for UW Extension. and is just amazing at her job. She's created 5 menus of meals that all consist of, low sodium, multi-grain, high fiber meals. Every meal has protein. Every meal has fruit and vegetable component, low sugar. And the other beautiful thing about these backpacks is that they're meant to be a meal. Other backpack programs that are out there, are often, non-perishable food, but it's macaroni and cheese, and it's ramen noodles, and it's a bag of beans, and it's, Pop-Tarts or whatever. This is a meal that the family will cook together, and, can recreate that meal with the grocery list they find inside. So if anyone likes to look at the backpack, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, I did bring a sample of the recipe cards that each backpack has inside. You'll notice on the back, so not only is the information on the front about the meal, but on the back is information on different need programs, hunger-related programs in our community. And they're different with each recipe cards. We have 5 different meals, so they're all going to be 5 different pieces of information on the back. For example, this one has information about how to get in touch with Access and get yourself signed up for any food benefits that the county may be able to provide. Neighborhood tables information is on there as well.
This is last one. Did you want this?
Oh, I'm sorry. No. In fact, these are outdated as well. It's very. We're getting new materials printed up, and so these are just extras to keep. Thank you. Nothing more embarrassing than giving your superintendent the last one copy.
I took the last one.
He gave her the last.
Right, gave her the last one. There you go. The other thing that will go into backpacks are little flyers on other events that are going on in our community. For example, this is the SNAP program that's new through USDA, which families may not be aware of or could sign up for this additional program. There's some shopping, tips. There's events going on in our community like Community Care Day, for example, or we have had our Step the Bus, Step the Desk events. Those kinds of things are also advertised in our backpack. So it's another nice communication tool for families. How the backpacks work then is a family will call us, liaison at school, which happens to be me at Grove. So they would call me and say, I need a backpack this week. I would either put it in the child's hook on their locker so the child takes it home, or the parent can come pick it up from school. We are in the process of revising that a little bit, so we have some families that would just get it every week for a quarter, on a quarterly basis. Because we found families don't have phones, they don't have the ability to call in each week, they don't maybe have the organization to do that, but there might be an ongoing need there. The other nice thing though is that those backpacks are available to any family. So we would have a portion of the backpacks that could be available to anyone. For example, if a need comes up, I had a mother who lost her Access card. She physically just misplaced it. And it was over the holidays, and she said, I won't get this replaced until after Christmas. What I'm going to do? I said, I have a backpack for you. So, it's just kind of that need that can be filled on that instant basis. That's really nice. Or a family who maybe they have lost their job and they just don't know how to get their, resources together for that time. So that's kind of how the backpack program works. Currently, we have backpacks in 6 backpacks per week going home at Grove Elementary, Mead, Howe. That would be for this coming year. And we also have 2 going home at River Cities High School each week. That leads me to the other piece of information I wanted to talk about was partnerships. This program has really developed some nice partnerships with, first of all, UW Extension, who, Jody Friday has been a great partner for our school and a great advocate for this program. But also River Cities High School has been a great partner as far as packing the backpacks. They house the food at their facility. They pack the backpacks each week from their site. They bring the backpacks to each school site and they make sure everything relevant gets in there. And they were noticing that they had students who were packing the backpacks and had no food at their homes. So we decided within our next budget to include 2 meals, at least 2 meals per week for River Cities families so that they could also have access to those. And for the most part, it's the students themselves that are cooking for themselves, taking care of their families, whatever. So other partners we have had great connections with. United Way, they've been able to fund us partially last year and also into this next coming year. So we're happy to partner with them. We also have a wonderful opportunity to partner with United Healthcare, which has been very exciting. They heard about us through Jody. United Healthcare has a branch of their company that's meant to be prevention, hunger focused in parts of their area that have the highest poverty. And thankfully, we were chosen by them to be a program that they would fund for us. So they funded for us 6 months worth of food, which is absolutely incredible. They paid the rights for us to become a drop-off site for Feeding America, which is incredible again. And now we hopefully can partner with Neighborhood Table and other community programs that we can have this as a drop site for Feeding America, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So United Healthcare has been a wonderful partner. Also, the Heart of Wisconsin Leadership Group did adopt us as a program this past 6 months. It has kind of kicked us up into the next level, whether we were ready for it or not. They were given the opportunity to choose us within a handful of programs that they were offered, and they just got so passionate about this backpack program, and they were the ones who kind of brought us to. I mean, we were doing bake sales and lounge candy sales to do fundraising for this thing, and they got on the phone and called their corporate partners, and they really bounced us up to the next financial level, and also they were able to do a lot of the logo and the publicity and that kind of thing for us. That was the group that was responsible for the initiative from the mayor, who proclaimed June to be the month of poverty. And I got an email today from Julie Lasses saying, "Great job on the backpack program," and that's all due to this Heart of Wisconsin Leadership Group, and they've been just phenomenal. They also created a Facebook page for us, which I'm very excited to look at. Can't do much to it, but I'm going to give you a little card. We were in the parade and handed out these little cards to folks, and if you'd like to take one, kind of shows how to get in touch with us on Facebook. So again, we kind of are bumped up to that next level of being visible in the community and having a little bit more money to work with, which is wonderful, but it's also created a new need for us. Which kind of brings me to the need portion of my little spiel here. The needs that we have currently are obviously materials. We always need backpacks, but the backpacks come back, but sometimes they're not in great condition, and sometimes they don't come back at all. Families move, or for whatever reason they don't come back. And also non-perishable food is always welcome. We will accept any non-perishable food. We are particularly looking for items that would fit our recipes, but if there's things that we can't use, we would call the pantry and get that to them, and they've done the same for us. They've been a nice connection for us. We'll call each other and say, "Hey, can you use some cereal?" or "Hey, can you use this Kleenex boxes we got as a donation," or whatever. So we're back and forth with each other on that. But the second need we also have is money, which is always the case. Even though we feel financially secure at this point, we'd like to expand into Washington School, and our ultimate goal is to expand into every elementary school. Well, really every school if we can, but as far as our immediate future, we'd like to get into the next level of elementary schools, Washington, Woodside, and then Rudolph and Vesper when we can. But to do that, we'd like to be able to have some sustainability. We don't want to promise something to people that we can't fulfill. So we'd like to, we need to continue with fundraising. That's always an issue. But the final need we have is help. We really have just a small working group of people who are doing, trying to do big things. And so if there's, I'm always putting my feelers out. If there's people who are interested in joining a committee and want to help us to kind of move our group to the next level, we'll always be open to you or to your person that you have in mind. So I just feel like, the kids I know are so grateful for this. If I could only give you a picture of the child's face that went, yes, when they get their backpack every week. I mean, that's the stuff that makes me realize we're doing something really important for them. And we have to continue doing it in order to help our kids be the best educated kids they can be. And I'd love to hear your questions, because I've talked really fast and I'm very nervous. Katie, what can I do for you?
Yeah, I have a question about, if you want people to help you, when is the major portion of the work done? Like what time of day or what day of the week? Or
that's something we've discussed, Jody and I. We'd like to have meetings after the business hours of the day so that we can accommodate some people from the community. One gentleman from our work group wants to continue with us on our our ongoing committee. So, and we meet monthly, but I think the small core of us that are doing the majority of the planning could meet monthly, but every other month would be our larger kind of our steering committee. So that's what I'm picturing, about an hour every 2 months, but with maybe some work outside of that for phone calling and canvassing and things like that. Yeah, Tom.
Have you got a hold of the center at the high school for volunteers? I mean, it seems like high school students are always looking for volunteer opportunities, and it might be a good chance for them to get out into their community a little bit.
And actually, somebody just brought that up to me recently, and I thought the same thing, and that was something I thought of pursuing in the fall, because that, if we could even have a student, kind of a student advocate on the committee to kind of tell us what things are working, what isn't, and they maybe could help us to do some other research on how to make this program work better. I think that's a great idea.
It could be a good project for student council.
It actually would be. Yeah, that sure would be. And I know the River City students are so proud of themselves when they come with their backpacks each week. They kind of bring the backpacks and they stand there and we tell them great job, and it's a nice partnership.
Well, and they are getting volunteer hours if they're not employed, because we require the hours for graduation. So that's how they're earning some of their hours too.
Well, and just a shout out to Trudy and the River City staff. Have just been more than accommodating to the stuff that's come in your building and the comings and goings of your students. So thank you for that.
Is that where the food would be dropped off if you had donations?
Right.
Would you take it to River Cities or?
Yeah, well, better probably to contact, me or Jody, and then we can facilitate that, because I just don't want, we want to make it simple for them as well.
Any more of the cards?
Oh, are we out of those too? Oh, my goodness.
So
I
we'll,
don't do Facebook.
Okay. Well, then we'll stop at John.
Are the donations, are the recipes on the Facebook page? So
No, actually, that's a good thing. We just got this started like maybe 2 months ago, so I'll make a note to put those on there.
Because then you would know what to donate.
Oh, that's true. I make a note of that.
And how big, do you make the backpacks or the ingredients to fit the size of the family you're giving it to, so you know?
Sure. We typically plan for a family of 4, and along with the items for the meal, for the recipe, we do cereal or oatmeal or something as a, and peanut butter or something else as a meal extender. In fact, I've seen these in little baggies for kids to bring to school for their snack. I mean, kids, they'll eat what we put in there, but we just kind of like to we kind of like to promote creating a meal rather than just eating random things. And it's cheaper, it's better for your health, it provides that family opportunity to sit together as a family. So we plan for a family of 4. If it's a bigger family than that, we would send 2 backpacks home.
Oh.
We also have a Hmong recipe, and we're working on a Hispanic recipe as well for families that don't enjoy the food that we would provide, that they would be more comfortable with their cultural type food.
So how do the families at the school know that this is available? Do they get does everybody at the
Everybody gets
year know?
notified. Yep. Everyone gets notified at the beginning of the year, either through our newsletter. And frankly, that's not the greatest form of advertisement, because a lot of our families just it comes and goes. There's a lot going on. So we're going to try to do more through our Grow Facebook page this year, our school Facebook pages, through email. I've gone to school events with the recipes created and kind of handed them out and said, hey, try this, and by the way, here's this program, you could sign up for that if you wanted. And I'm hoping that as the community gets more aware of it, then families will get more aware of it too. So that's part of coming here tonight.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you too. Did you have a question also?
Yes. Does this continue in the summer, or is this school year only?
Great question, and it does not continue in the summer. That's why we try to provide as much information about other resources for the community. That's a need that will continue, though. You're absolutely right. So maybe that's an even down the road goal. So we're so excited about it. Thank you for listening. It's been really exciting to watch it
Your
grow.
work and bringing this to our attention.
Absolutely. Thank you. Very good information.
Yes.
Good. And we're available on Facebook or or contact me at Grove, anytime you'd like more information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Okay, I guess we can next move on to our committee reports. Business Service Committee, John?
Yes, Business Service Committee was called to order on July 1st at 6 p.m. There was no public comment, and we had no actionable items. We did get a purchases update, and that was in regards to some Meraki equipment for basically cloud management at the high school in Washington, I believe. And this was discussed in a previous meeting. However, the need for purchase was pushed forward faster because Meraki was bought out by Cisco. And the prices were going to go up drastically, so they decided to save us a pile of money and purchase it at $49,000, which probably would have been closer to $60,000 if Cisco got hold of it with their price. The second part, we had the next part was utility costs and snow removal report from Ed at Buildings and Grounds, and unfortunately, snow is one thing you can't predict, and we had a huge snowfall last year. We had 64 inches, and snowfall cost, or removal cost, and salt and everything else was right around $99,000. However, the year before, we only had 19 inches, and it was like 35, 20, or about $30,000. So you roll the dice on that one. Overall, utility costs are actually down as far as natural gas prices are down. However, the electricity, the water, and everything else kind of the savings we would get on gas is kind of eating up the electricity and water costs. Even though all of our buildings are more efficient with the new boilers that have been put in and the new energy saving lights and fixtures. And I also noticed that with the use of Apples in some of these carts, with the iPads and the carts, that the actual energy use in some of these buildings in regards to technology has gone down as well. So, that was the bulk of our report, and it took us about 7 minutes. One of the fastest meetings.
I see the water cost went up a significant amount. I believe that, did that have to do with that sewer charge increase last year?
Exactly, the sewer, and then there's a new rate for sprinkling now also, which.
I remember this was in the works that it was coming with the sewer increase was going to be pretty dramatic.
Yep.
Explains that.
Oh, geez. Yeah, with that, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion is second to approve the meeting minutes from the Business Service Committee meeting of July 1st, 2013. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks, John. Next, Personnel Service.
Personnel Services met July 1st, last Monday, and that meeting was 7 minutes long also. And from that
Fine to
meeting,
get in here.
we had 6 consent agenda items, but I'm going to be asked, I would like to hold up PS5. So on 1 through 4 and 6, on PS1, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 professional staff early retirement request effective June 11, 2013. Secondly, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 professional staff resignation request effective June 25, 2013. The committee recommends and I move to approve the 2 professional staff appointments effective August 27, 2013. Fourth, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 professional staff reappointment effective August 27, 2013. And PS6, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 4 support staff posting results. I would second that.
Okay, motion is second to approve PS1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Back to PS5, we had a candidate for the Central Office Technology Department, and that candidate has decided not to take the position. So from that, PS5 will be the committee recommends, and I move to approve, or I just moved, the committee wasn't there, to approve the 1 support staff appointment.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the 1 staff appointment, PS5. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And with that, I move that the minutes from the July 1st, 2013 Personnel Services Committee be approved as printed.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the meeting minutes of the July 1st, 2013 Personnel Services Committee meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And then I move to approve the various open and closed meetings that we had on June 24th, 2013.
Second that.
Okay, motion is second to approve the committee meeting minutes from closed session on June 24th, 2013. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Sandy. Next, we have Educational Services Committee. Deanne?
Thank you. The Educational Services Committee also met last Monday on July 1st. We called the meeting to order at 6:15 and there was no public comment. We have two actionable items, ES1 and ES2. ES1 was about Title I programs for first reading. Kathy Stebbins-Hinz, who is our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, presented the revised version of Board Policy 342.5, Title I programs, and Title I parental involvement policy to us for first reading. And ES2 involves the SPDG, Professional Learning Communities, focus on PLC's grant application by Grove Elementary. Kathy again was here and explained that the Wisconsin State Personnel Development Grant, which is the SPDG, has been developed to assist schools with the most significant gaps between students with disabilities and the state averages for students in the same subgroup. Grove Elementary School qualifies and has decided to apply for this grant. The grant would provide support from PLC coaches along with professional development, access to a supporting website, and up to $16,000 per year for 4 years for professional development and PLC work. The committee recommends, and I move that we accept those two consent agenda items.
Second.
Motion is second to approve ES1 and ES2. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
We went on to updates and reports, and the first one was the Business Education Encourage Committee. Kathy and Gus Mancuso, Jennifer Riggenbach, John Bergen, and Rick Murden of Encourage were here to provide an update about the work of the Business Education Partnership Committee. The Business Education Partnership Committee formed in the fall of 2013 to address the skills gap and the silver tsunami, facing manufacturing and other industries in central Wisconsin. The committee is made up of representation from area businesses, school districts, and Encourage. The Business Education Partnership Committee has worked hard throughout the year to become informed about the needs of students, educators, and industry in the area. 4 subcommittees have been formed to continue this important work during the 2013-14 school year. These committees are the first one, K through 5 curriculum, which the goal is to infuse contextualized STEM information and experiences into the K through 5 curriculum. Then there's the 16th through 14th curriculum committee, and you'll notice it's grades 6 through 14, meaning continuing on into 2 years of community college, Midstate Technical Institute or college. And their goal is to infuse the contextualized STEM information and experiences into the 14 curriculum. The third committee is on apprenticeships, and their goal is to create business education partnerships which afford certified apprenticeships, job shadows, mentoring experiences, internships, and the other work experience opportunities for students. And the fourth one is the Community Parent Educator Education Committee, and their goal is to educate the community parents and educators about the opportunities available in our region. The update also included a list of accomplishments and goals specific to Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools, focusing on how the district is working to close the skills gap. The update was concluded with information from Encourage about how the Business Education Partnership Committee fits into a larger network of organizations within the Southwood County area. We adjourned at that point and then walked down to the caring closet, which is in the back of the cafeteria here at East Junior High. And the caring closet was opened several years ago in the basement of the Family Center. in an effort to provide new and gently used essentials and clothing for Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools students. The location of the carrying closet was moved to the East Junior High under the leadership of Heather Lazitza, current WRPS homeless coordinator. Committee members and members of the public joined her in a tour of the carrying closet, which was very informative and interesting, similar to Barb's presentation for us tonight. So the committee recommends, and I move adoption of the rest of the minutes of the Educational Services Committee of July 1st, 2015.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion is second to approve the meeting minutes of the Educational Service Committee of July 1st, 2013. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, next is agenda referrals and information requests. Do we have anything? Okay, next we can move on to the legislative agenda.
Okay, yeah, thanks, John. I just pulled up today, I went on WASB's website, and as everybody knows, the governor signed the budget on July 3rd, leaving intact the school funding voucher expansion deal he struck with the key lawmakers. That agreement makes sweeping changes to education in our state, provides additional funding for public schools, as well as expanded support for private schools in the form of a statewide expansion of taxpayer-funded private school vouchers and creation of a state income tax deduction for private school tuition. It also includes a $651 million income tax decrease, freezes tuition at the UW system campuses for 2 years, and limits property tax increases on the typical Wisconsin home to about 1% in each of the next 2 years. It also expands vouchers statewide, but limits voucher enrollment everywhere except Milwaukee and Racine. It eliminates the ability of school districts to impose residency requirements on district employees, and it allows most public school districts to increase net per pupil spending by $100 in 2013 and by $150 in 2014-15. In all, Governor Walker made 57 vetoes, including a number related to K-12 education. Importantly, he used his veto pen to modify the statewide voucher expansion to keep it in line with an agreement he reached with key legislative leaders. The 2013-15 budget provides nearly $300 million in additional funding for K-12 public schools. The Budget Act also provides $13.6 million for a new educator effectiveness system for evaluating teachers and $2.8 million over the biennium to continue and expand the use of the PALS reading screener for all the students from 4th grade kindergarten, from 4-year-old kindergarten through 2nd grade. Another noteworthy item was the statewide student information system. The Budget Act effectively sets aside the existing contract award decision and requires the DPI to develop and submit to the Joint Finance Committee for approval a new proposal that would provide for a multiple vendor student information system solution. So I guess we'll see how things work out in that.
Thank you. Next we have the bills.
And I would make a motion that the receipts be noted and the bills be paid.
Second.
Motion is second that the bills be noted and paid. It's printed. We have a roll call, please.
Mrs. Hutt?
Yes.
Mr. Bembo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Rayo?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina?
Yes.
Mr. Krings?
Yes, thank you. Next is new business. Action item A is to approve summer grounds custodial staff appointment. Go ahead, Ryan.
We did have one of the summer help employees that went through in June ultimately, and I've got Ed here, hopefully he'll not, you said if I'm remembering this correctly and getting all the details correctly, had a second job that ultimately led to additional time, more work, and so that individual ultimately withdrew from working for the district. So to replace that vacancy, we do have a recommendation for a new additional hire. So the administration does recommend approval of appointment of Scott Killian to a position of summer grounds custodial staff in situations of doing or working the capacity of cleaning duties at the rate of $8.25 an hour, and for grounds duties at the rate of $10 per hour. We did have a need, and Scott was available to start last week, so we wanted to be sure to bring this through this week for your approval. So that is the administration's recommendation.
Any questions?
I would make a motion to approve the appointment of Scott Kelly to the position of summer grounds custodial staff working 8 hours per day at a rate of $8.25 per hour for cleaning duties and $10 per hour for grounds duties effective July 3rd, 2013.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the appointment of Scott Killian to the position of summer grounds / custodial staff working 8 hours per day at a rate of $8.25 per hour for cleaning duties and $10 per hour for grounds duties effective July 3rd, 2013. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next, we have discussion and possible action on board communication and staff appreciation strategies. I actually brought this forward and discussed it with Colleen a little bit last month. I decided we'd just like to have it on the agenda. Trying to think of ways that as a board or individuals we can do whatever it is we can do to interact more with staff. One of the things that we had kind of discussed is maybe lunchroom visits. We have time and we can develop a spreadsheet that has all the buildings listed and as we're available. It's not going to be an assignment or anything, but if you have a couple hours free, maybe notify the administration the day before. So perhaps we can spend an hour in the building, maybe see a few things and have lunch and have a chance to sit down and have a chat with staff members if they feel they'd like to.
One of the other things, I've asked the building administrators to kind of give me a listing of some of their staff meetings, so that if you'd be interested in, able to go to talk with staff at that time, to certainly do that.
Somehow I'd like to, I hope that people, when they come forward, like in any of our committee meetings, like, Barb tonight, for example, anyone that comes forward and tells us what's going on, I wish there was a way that we could express to them how much we appreciate what you do, and coming forward and telling us and telling the community, Ed Service Committee, or any of our curriculum committees that come forward, our physical education, every time there is up, and they're asking us for something, but it's enlightening us, and we really appreciate everything you do, and I don't know how else we can do it except to say thank you, but we do appreciate that.
We don't wish for it to sound hollow. I mean, there's just
right.
Trying to find ways. I know social media is so big now, and I've read many articles about districts using the Facebook type page to kind of sell the successes of the district, and I think that's really intriguing. I'd like to have more discussion on that, but probably have some discussion with our computer people, because there's pitfalls there too. It'd have to be kind of limited who had access. Comments obviously can't have to have a name attached to them, which is fine, but it would be nice to somehow put something in the community. I mean, maybe we could take turns writing a letter to the editor of our local newspaper. I'm not sure. I guess that was why I asked that it be put on, that we can have some dialogue and things that we could possibly do.
Well, I know, I talked to a couple people about the idea of writing a letter from the board to the staff when something, and have it read at a staff meeting. I went out to Vesper for their Innovation Day, was it called? And it was just fantastic. I would like to write a letter from at least those of us who were able to go to that, because and then also, like you said, seeing the Caring Closet, hearing Barb's presentation, Barb, expect a letter from John.
I'll consider it having been done. You don't have to.
Oh no, I've been put on task.
Well, I know I've had people asking, and Ann, you and I were at that same meeting, and wanting to know what can we do, and I had said, it's the cost of a stamp. If you write a letter of appreciation, that means so much to an educator. I've heard teachers say before, I got a no from a student, or I got a no from a parent, and that touches them and makes them feel real, and that it's worthwhile, and when a student appreciates what's happening, as a board. But it's not just teachers, it's the food service. I know Julie sent me a couple of times where the food service staff is meeting. They would love to see a board member come to one of their meetings, I think, because I don't know if that's ever happened. Just to talk with them and say, how are you doing, and how's work going?
I was just going to mention, we do have some thank you cards that have the WRPS logo on them, if you care to use those.
Okay.
so that it
We've
looks
been
more
working too
official
long
coming.
together because I was getting to that.
Well, that's the radar thing.
But it is. Yep, no, thank you.
But just to finish, I've talked to a couple of teachers who said that they would really appreciate that, you know, just to know. So,
I would, and the other thing, I know we're talking about Eclipse, I mean, if we could put something in there from the board on Eclipse, so the staff could see that.
Anytime.
I know when I used to do PTC, I always brought my traveling grill. Anybody that was at Children's Choice knew about the traveling grill. And brats and burgers and that, usually at least once, maybe not twice a year.
Get a better turnout then?
Oh, yeah, I mean, they're all the time, it's amazing. But the teachers appreciated that. I know we did it during Teachers Appreciation Week when I was there, but I always picked another time to grill out and do something and get some food. The things that I volunteered in some of the different things in school. I mean, the track meet and about a month ago, I was at Woodside and was judging. They had a unit on electricity and magnetism and that type of thing, and they had these projects where they made these projects, and literally like they were toys, and they had to present a case for why the toy manufacturer would want to buy their toy. And some of the creativity is amazing, and this was fourth grade level, and it was just amazing what they would put together and how someone really worked really well. So the things that happen in a school are, with our teachers and staff, and I know we say it a lot that we appreciate them, but we really do appreciate everything they do for our kids, and it just maddens me when you see people in the community saying, they're bashing our teachers and saying, oh, all they care about is money. And it's like, anybody that's in teaching doesn't care about money, because if they wanted money, they wouldn't be in teaching. And you can't take a businessman and make him a teacher. You have to have the willing and the drive and the personality to be a teacher. So not everybody can teach.
One of the things that I know you do too, John, is because I see you at different sporting events, if you have opportunities to do that and talk with staff as you see them, whether it's a concert you're attending or a sporting event, or, and just say thank you for what you do. I mean, if you had that opportunity to talk to people then too, if you're out for some reason.
And I've done that on things where I've involved with people and different things. I've sent out emails and I've sent out letters to different people on my own. But, I mean, as a board, I could probably, I don't very, very rarely send them as a board member, except for a couple times, but most of the time I just send them an appreciation of what they have.
Well, you mentioned about a spreadsheet possibly with lunch, and maybe we need to do it, because we've talked about this quite a bit, about, how can we do it? We can't show monetarily, or, maybe we make a concerted effort and have, and maybe even try to reach all the schools, because I know myself, I would reach schools where my kids work.
Right.
So I would see Washington, I would see East, I would see, I don't Grant or Grove, I just don't do that. And I think as parents, now my kids are gone, so now I could look into other schools. I mean, they're not gone, but they're still there.
Well, would everybody be okay with taking turns with an appreciation letter, either written as a letter to the editor, to the local newspaper, as well as through Eclipse? I mean, I'll draw up a spreadsheet before our next meeting that we can start after school starts, as far as school visits, and we can keep track, and, maybe we come up with assignment one per month. Just give us time to think about what you want to share, and if there's something from the buildings that the administration wishes to share with us, they can forward it to us, and maybe we can include that.
And to make sure we hit each school, so that, because it's sometimes...
It's easy to go to the one
It
close
is.
to home. I mean, I'm at Washington
Yeah.
almost every day.
Right, exactly, that's... I like that, that's a good idea.
Okay, well, I'll try to get something together then before our next meeting and see if we have a starting point, because that'll go time for classes to start. I'm sure you do a lot better than I would, so.
Well,
I was just wondering if you're comfortable having something like that on Google Docs where everyone could view the spreadsheet at the same time?
Sounds perfect.
Okay.
Sounds
And if you need,
And then maybe if we just communicate through Maureen when we went, so she can keep track, and then, as long as we can view it, then we can see where the.
and you could sign up right away
And
too.
training.
Excellent.
Yeah, we need training too, so, some of us.
Oh, we have some time. All right, well, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is discussion and possible action on custodians, maintenance, and computer technicians employee handbook.
So you have a blue copy, and then you should have a new one that's revised effective today.
Last week with your board packet, the blue copy, which in the bottom left-hand corner of the box, it should read revised July 2nd. The working draft as of July 2nd, last week was mailed to you in your board packet. A couple of weeks ago now, the working draft that we had put together went to legal counsel for review, and we got that probably a day or so after your board packet went out last week. So we've been reviewing that and made additional updates, and Dr. Dickman and I had a conference call with legal counsel reviewing those recommended edits today as well. So the second copy that was put out on the table for you tonight with the white cover, and it should in the bottom left-hand corner of the box say revised July 8th is the, I guess you call it the final rough draft that we have of the proposed handbook for the custodians, maintenance, and computer technicians. The differences or the final adjustments and edits that were put into the white covered copy have bold print where new wording was added in, and wording that was recommended to come out has a strike-through line through those recommended edits. And again, the vast majority, outside of a few typographical adjustments that needed to be made, the adjustments you see in the white cover copy are following our review with legal counsel. Some examples, just to reference, if you open early on into the draft, for example, if you look at page 8, you'll see a few adjustments that were made or recommended from legal counsel. In some cases, they're pretty small and subtle, but things like, for example, under the process of filling vacancies, recommendations to go away from references to the unit, and going a little bit more generic in wording, replacing the word board with district for consistency within this paragraph, considering the other references to district throughout. That last sentence being felt to be a redundancy from what was referenced earlier in the paragraph.
Ryan, if we could back up to the table
Sure.
of contents, what is the error bookmark define me?
That's the way the table of contents is set up, connecting to the actual job titles and pages. That's just again a logistical piece. Once the final draft is put together, and we start taking these slash line marks out, and it consolidates down a few pages. It'll probably be a good 4 pages or more shorter in length after that final copy is put together. And perhaps even before the edits and adjustments that you would be able to see, perhaps I should back up and ask, having received a copy last week, if there were any particular questions or items that you wanted to discuss from the draft copy you received last week. As you're looking at that, I guess a few other comments that I would make just as an overview would be that a number of the items that you'll see within this handbook were taken from the teacher handbook that was put together. A lot of your standard employment protocol policy type pieces, when we're talking about things like appropriate use of technology to, there's a number of things. There are payroll references that are made in here that would be standard amongst all of the different groups that we have. From there, where things begin to get unique would be pieces that are specific to this particular group. Similar to what happened with the development of the teacher handbook, we did start with our first working draft, pulling in components right out of the last collective bargaining agreement that we had with this group.
I do have a question, and maybe it's just me. I cannot figure out what you mean under the sick leave, under the definitions and general provisions. Well, it's page 35, I guess it's page 35 on both. I don't understand that paragraph. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. Is it just me? Or is
And it's under the definitions and general provisions?
Yeah,
Which paragraph?
the very first one. Any payments received. There's too many there-ins and here, therefore. I don't know. What does that mean?
Essentially, when they receive, I mean, it has to be rewritten, but
Yes.
essentially what happens is if you're receiving workman's comp payments, that will go to the district because they'll be receiving sick leave benefit is the way I'm interpreting
Yeah,
this.
there can be a delay in the approval of workers' comp, which in situations where this would occur, the employee is really receiving their full pay and is having a deduction drawn off of their sick leave allowance. So we would not ultimately allow the receipt of a sick leave benefit and a payment of workers' comp that might become delayed later. If they are and have received the sick leave benefit, our expectation would be that whatever's paid out from the workers' comp claim would be turned over to or returned to the district in lieu of the fact that they received the sick leave benefit. But that sentence says to be reworded.
Thank you, because
The words really got gobbled up there.
I understood everything till I got to that paragraph. I thought, what in the world was I trying to say?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything more you want to add to that, Dan, but that basically summarize it.
But I-
That summarizes it right. If they receive sick leave and then their work comp claim is approved, those benefits would be paid to the district to cover the sick leave that they paid prior to approval.
Okay, I understand that, but I sure didn't understand that.
So it should say something to the effect of payable back to the board by the employee in lieu of receiving sick leave benefits.
Maybe a couple of commas or something,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, there's a few more.
Yeah, there's a couple things. Yeah.
On page 9, I guess, just out of curiosity, what's the deal with the bulletin? Just a legal, just don't need rules anymore?
And it's not that, that shouldn't be taken as an intent to remove that or excuse me, to not allow that practice to take place, but that was one of the recommended removals by legal counsel, and in short, the rationale that was sent along with that recommendation was that this is a carryover from the collective bargaining era, and the district can control its bulletin boards.
Much of what you see removed is removed because
It's
legal
not-
counsel suggested that it not be in a handbook, but rather that there be a memo coming from, say, Ed's office to suggest that, you know, when we're if you know, there's a bulletin board, if you want to hang things, this is how it'll happen. That it's more in a memo form versus in the handbook, because otherwise we're revising the handbook repeatedly. That many of the practices, assigning vacation or filling a position, those kinds of things that come more in a memo form from administration rather than being a practice drawn out in the handbook. The more generic, the better, is kind of the, I don't know if that would be.
Yeah, I mean, the handbook is more about employment procedures and practices as it is about, you know, allowing a unit to have a bulletin board. That's more tied to the operation of a unit within an old CBA as opposed to straight employment practice.
It's a little different.
Ryan, on page 27, under uniforms, we set out before specific what the uniform amount was, how many there would be. Now this is deems appropriate intervals determined by the board. Is that vague language encouraged. So I mean, then that would just be up to Ed then to have in his practice memorandum of understanding that there would be X number of uniforms.
Well, it would be more of a memo that just goes to, as a communication piece to the staff. I don't think we have intentions at this point to change
Okay. I just
how
didn't
we've
know
done
if-
things,
because it
but
doesn't
it's gonna
specify an
come-
amount,
right,
if that,
it's gonna become
that's
more
a
in a memo
problem.
form. Well, because that way we can
Just
choose,
like
maybe
two,
we
then you
can
gotta
only
change
afford
the-
2 shirts.
Right,
this
here's
year.
the little handbook, right?
Okay.
And that was, and that I'm sure you recall as well, when our group got together to review proposed changes from the old CBA, this was one of the items that we talked about. That, for example, our original recommendation was scaling things back from uniform, which was shirt and pants, to just shirts. The legal counsel recommendation is to scale it back even more. Our intent is to go as far as practice with what was written into the draft that you received the week before. With this scaled down description, the rationale that was sent along with legal counsel was the prior language appears to be a carryover from the collective bargaining agreement. The proposed language clarifies the board's authority and discretion in this area. So if the board wanted to give 20 shirts, you can give 20 shirts. If you wanted to give 3 shirts, it could be 3 shirts. I think legal counsel is just saying, don't bind yourself to a specific number in a handbook.
What is the stand now on employees transporting students in their vehicles?
If you look at the new updated edition that was put out today, there is in that section recommended removal, and that is one of the items that we actually talked just today about, and basically boiled down to the fact that this is not something that's happening with this employee group. The language that you see in that section was a carryover from the teacher's handbook. We don't have a practice of having custodians transport students for student activities. So that's why, for simplicity's sake, it was viewed as taking that out, since it wasn't really applicable to this group.
But if for some reason a child missed a bus or whatever, could somebody in this group give them a ride home?
I think our intended practice is to have other members of other groups do that.
Ryan, is the section under student solicitation the same thing that this group usually wouldn't be involved in that on page 26?
Legal counsel felt that what was outlined in that section was redundant from another that was covered. Let me get to that explanation. The explanation on this was as follows. The terminology is somewhat confusing, and the main concerns would appear to already be addressed under the outside employment section.
Well, I would agree with that. That's generally not something that,
Yeah, that group would.
they're not in the classroom.
And everything on seniority is just out, all those.
Length of service is the terminology that we're being recommended to go with, so we still will be keeping track of length of service. If you, for example, refer to the reduction in force section within the handbook here, there is a reference to that being in one of the items considered. When it comes to things like distributing vacation requests or approving vacation requests, I'm trying to think of the other example.
Overtime.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the equalization of assigning overtime, the intent from Buildings and Grounds Department is to continue the past practice of considering length of service. Again, that was an item that Dr. Dicklin and I discussed with legal counsel today, and the recommendation that we had is that not only to use the terminology length of service, but as far as, and you'll see the wording recommendation. Let me flip to, for example, under working assignments, simply going with the sentence, employees will be provided work assignments by their respective supervisor or director, that the wording that you see currently with the strike-throughs beginning on page 29 and carrying over to page 30 would be something that would be more appropriately placed in a memo from the Buildings and Grounds Director, for example, to members of that employment group as far as how work assignments would be delineated, as opposed to being specifically detailed in a handbook.
And what are we going to do? Not have probationary employees anymore, or how is that going to work? That's been all been stricken.
And that was a piece that was included within the seniority component, but if you go to, for example, under vacations, there's a reference to a 90-day probationary period for new employees.
It was 6 months.
Oh, and what we had talked about, I believe Ed was going with a 90-day period.
I was kind of pushing for 6 months actually, but you were going to check with legal counsel.
And that would be an example of something that if the board feels that a 6 month period of time would be better, that is something that we can go with and make an edit on as opposed to a 90-day period.
And do you feel with longer period of time, it gives you a better chance to really, because I know like where I work, it's pretty hard sometimes to get time to oversee a new employee. So before you know it, the probationary period is up and you go in for an evaluation and the manager will say, I really haven't had a chance to observe this person. Just the time went by pretty quickly. So
I think 6 months is reasonable, I really do. Ryan was going to check with legal counsel as far as, was it back pay and earned vacations and things like that during that probationary period, but
The distribution of benefits was another piece that came into that discussion because we felt that the vacation allowance and sick days and things of that nature should be placed on hold until the employee completes the probationary period. 6 months can be pretty long on holding off on giving vacation or sick leave, but at the same time, that might be a trade-off that comes with having a longer probationary period for evaluation purposes like you're referring to, John. So we really did not have anything specific come up related from legal counsel on a recommended length for that probationary period. So from my perspective, I have no problem with having that be identified at 6 months as opposed to the 90-day period.
I just feel more comfortable if that would get a little bit longer time to do a better evaluation.
And so I think we would probably change that to write in 180 days, if that sounds okay, as opposed to 90.
On page 24 is the probationary period that's been crossed off. Do we want to do anything with that piece, just probationary period? There it is, 6 calendar months.
Well, that having come out of the seniority component, I think we could look to as its own subcategory, just probation for the probationary period, and then add that piece back in as its own subgroup. Okay.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
I think just one other thing that I think is important to note is that one of the more significant adjustments that's written into this handbook proposal and moving from the CBA to a handbook are the provisions under sick leave and allowances that take place there. And I think it's important for that to be brought to the attention of the board, is that under the collective bargaining agreement, the group did have an unlimited number of sick days that could accumulate. That is unique for this group as compared to others. Once you get into, I believe it was the 150-day mark, well, how they accrued, they were cut in half, whatever was left over at the end of the year to be added on, so it wasn't the full remaining left at the end of the year. But we are viewing it, right, there's no cap along with that system. As we move our groups into handbooks and view down the road more of a consolidation on how leave provisions would likely work across the different hourly wage groups, our recommendation is moving towards a 120-day cap for all groups, and that's why a recommendation of putting a 120-day cap on this group without a removal of the unlimited accruement. Now, you will note in italics that we did recommend adding in basically a grandfather provision, which grants the current employees who had been hired prior to July 1 of 2013 that had more than 120 days, that they'd be allowed to take the number that they had at the end of fiscal year 2013 that were beyond 150 to put them aside in a sick retirement bank for their future use, whether that mean they depleted their full 120 over the course of the coming years and needed additional sick leave, or with the current allowance of the early retirement benefit, to be able to use those days towards their total accumulation at per diem rate to the insurance, the health plan benefit. That health plan benefit, as was outlined within the CBA, largely remains intact. The one exception to that would be the old CBA language did have a reference in there to, upon retirement, this group receiving 3 months of health coverage before that banked time would be at per diem rate. Those banked days at per diem rate would be contributed, or would be put in an allowance for them to purchase health insurance. The new handbook does not have that 3-month coverage outside of the sick day bank retirement provision. I think
certain custodians who have exceeded that 120 that have that.
Do you know if you have any employees in that group that would be retirement eligible, that this might influence their decision on whether to stay or pull the plug on retirement? Because if so, we may want to grant a window of opportunity of time for them to figure that out. It just seems like if they've earned it and it's there, and now they feel like, they want to retire under the terms, or
there's only one employee that I know was looking at this or had this on his mind that was considering it. I did have a couple of meetings and discussion with that individual to let him know that the proposal that we were going to be bringing forward would still allow them to, as the saying goes, cash in those accumulated sick days at per diem rate to a dollar amount to pay for health insurance upon retirement. The fact that the 3-month additional was going to be eliminated was also brought to that individual's attention, and he did elect to still continue to keep on working. His retirement would have been earlier than he had planned or had hoped for. I think this at least one additional year will get him to where he wants to go. That's really the only individual that I was made aware of, and we covered that through discussions. So I think with an understanding from the few employees that are in that area or in that age range, that this handbook and the provisions here would at least be good until June 30th of 2014. I think we've got that issue covered.
A couple of the one or two changes that this group will be experiencing is they'll be contributing to WRS, which they haven't had to do, so that's going to be a hit in their pocketbooks. All the other groups have already gone there. and also.
The health insurance contribution.
Health insurance contribution will be
This group
equal
is
to
paid
the other groups.
10%, they'll be moved to 15%, like the other groups. And one other additional component is there was a provision written into the old CBA that members of this group that had spouses also working in the district had 100% paid for by the district. That is another provision that was not carried over. So those are the most significant changes that this group will be experiencing if approved as is here.
Well, then I'd make a motion to recommend approval of proposed custodians, maintenance, computer technicians, employee handbook with the changes we made tonight for approval.
So basically including probationary wording and then the page 35 rewrite regarding comp time and, or workman's comp.
Maybe I'll get it. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the administration's recommendation of approval of proposed custodians, maintenance, and computer technicians, employee handbook. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I guess we can all look over our calendar in our own time, and with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.